Check, check, check. Am I all right? Thank you, Craig. Hey, for everybody watching, from wherever you're watching around the world, my mic actually works. So thank you for being a part on behalf of Pastors Joel and Victoria Osteen. We just want to say thank you for being a part of the Lakewood Leadership Program. We are in Leadership 205 right now. This is week 4 of Leadership 205, and this is all about multi-generational teams. How do you lead a multi-generational team? And I think for us, answering the question is, how does each generation actually view leadership? How do they see the world? How do we see the world in our generation? And we believe that God is a generational God. This is essential to understanding who God is in the scriptures, in the Bible, is that God is a generational God. And he doesn't want us just to lead in our own generation. He desires that we lead and leave our mark for the next generation. And so for us as the people of God, we learn how to lead and how to influence those around us. So if you've been a part of the Lakewood Leadership Program for any amount of time, you know that our desire is that you would make your mark in the world. God has given you a specific time in history, according to Acts 17, with influence and a job. He's given you skills and talents and giftings, and he's given you a circle of friends and family and church and a city to make an impact in. And so our desire is that all of us would know that, what that is, and what God expects of us. So as we have conversation tonight in the final week, week 4, we're going to be talking Generation Z, the youngest generation in the marketplace right now, the youngest generation actually working in America and around the world. And a lot of the studies that we're talking about are not just American studies. For those of you watching in other countries, we have looked at a number of studies across 10, 15, 20, 25 different countries, and a lot of these are the same findings. And so tonight we're going to have a conversation with a few of my friends who are in Generation Z. That is a generation between 14 and 28 years old. But before we do that, here's what I want us to do. Our next class, Leadership 206, we're signing up right now, August 29th. August 29th is going to be our next class. 3 weeks from tonight. Tonight is August 8th. 3 weeks from tonight is going to be August 29th. Leadership 206, we're going to be talking about how to develop a great culture. We're going to be in Daniel Coyle's book, The Culture Code. And we're going to talk about what is a good culture, why does it matter, what are the values and traditions that our culture is built on, and is everybody a part of that? Is everybody bought into what the culture is? Because here's the thing, you're going to either have a culture by design or you're going to have a culture by default. You're going to have a culture. And the question is, do you like the culture that is built? And so what we want to do is talk about what that means. And so that's the next class, 3 weeks from tonight, Leadership 206. Please sign up. You can text the word leadership to 77377, leadership to 77377. If you want to register, or if you have somebody else that wants to register, just text the keyword leadership to 77377. We will get their information. We can make sure we give them the registration link. With no more waiting, we're going to introduce our panel for discussion tonight. These are longtime friends of mine. They have been a part of Lakewood for years in youth and young adults. They for Miss Gigi Garay, Miss Gabby Lozano, and Mr. Anand Faraji. So tonight, over the last few weeks, we have discussed leadership in the different generations. And the question we're answering is, how do each of the generations view leadership? Now, I want to start right off at the top, because I know we've had feedback over the last 3 weeks. And I want to say that one of the most important things that we can remember is that it's very difficult to, and impossible actually, it's impossible to generally say that every generation, everybody in a single generation thinks the same. That's not possible. And so each of the generations many times will have different viewpoints of leadership. But based on research, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to start from a premise, we're going to start from a foundation that this is some of the research that has come about from Gen Z, from Generation Z. And so what we want to do is start from that point, and then we want to have real conversation and say, is this actually the case? And we did that with the baby boomers, we did that with Gen X and millennials last week, and this week we're talking to Gen Z. So part of what I want to do in this class, honestly, is to look at what is the generalization, what is being said about this young generation in society, in the marketplace, in jobs, if you're a leader in a school, if you have kids at this age, if you're a teacher, if you're in the medical field, if you're whatever job or career you have. This is the youngest generation to come in right now. But you will make up a massive part. In 2025, you will make up almost 30% of the workforce by this next year. So we're learning a lot from different generations. We're learning how their generation is very much the same, and I'll make an argument tonight that they're very much the same as the silent generation and baby boomers, actually. We're coming around to some of that mindset again. And so we're going to get into it tonight. So I want to ask them. Gigi has served not only on staff here at Lakewood Church, but served for a long time. You've grown up here, actually, at Lakewood Church in both English and Spanish. Gabby Lozano has played a significant role all the way junior high, high school. She came up through the high school program here at Lakewood Church and has been a life group leader, is currently a leader in both youth and young adults. And then this guy right here, we just pulled him off the street, don't know his name, and we're just going to ask him a bunch of questions because that's what we do.
Just here to fill the spot. That's it.
You may have seen him. On stage singing. Anand Faraji has been a leader as well, and they've all come through the youth and young adult ministries of Lakewood Church, and so we appreciate that. So I want to ask you tonight, just to start off here, God is a generational God. The Bible says in Psalm 145 that God desires that each generation proclaim his works to the next generation. Why does that matter when it comes to our family, our society? Why does it matter when it comes to the workplace? Why does it matter when it comes to our church? Because if we're going to influence, that means we're going to influence people in every direction. We're going to influence people older than us and younger than us. And I think to understand one another is really vital and important. In this class, I think landing on week 4 here, I just want to make this statement, that humility is always going to be the answer in leadership. Going and seeking people out and having conversation, right, Dr. Dokes? Having conversation and learning people. Because it's easy to stereotype. Well, you're a baby boomer, so this is how you think. Not true. You're a Gen X like me. This is how you think. So that's why I want to put up the research, and then I want us to go, what are the stereotypes, and are they really true? And I want to hear it directly from you. So I'm going to ask you the first question, and Gigi, I'm going to start with you. Your generation, according to studies, your generation looks at leadership through an empowering lens.
That is correct.
You want to turn your mic on?
Hello. That is correct. Yes, I firmly believe that. I see it in our generation. We value your input, and empowerment is that. I think a lot of times we think empowerment looks like we want authority, but that's far from the truth. So I feel like empowerment is spot on. I think we're looking for people that will see the gold in us and pull out things that we don't even see in ourselves. And I think that's what empowering leaders do. And so I fully agree with that statement. Yes.
Would you go to the next slide, if you don't mind, Manny or Christian? Thank you, sir. Leadership style, ideal leader is a collaborator. This is what the research says, but we're going to have a discussion about it, whether this is true, mostly true, not true at all. We want to hear it directly from you. Learning style, multimodal, which means you learn in a variety of ways, and you like that. Influence and advice comes from, let's be honest, a lot of forums. You go online and ask people, hey, what do you think about this? Even strangers, for life advice. One of the things that I've noticed about Gen Z and talking with them is, and you can say yes or no to this, is a lot of times you will take advice directly from whoever a leader or supervisor is that you work with. Obviously authority, family, authorities in life, coaches, teachers, things like that. But you will take life advice directly from a supervisor because you're looking for input. Is that true?
This is true.
And then marketing, of course, you guys are the digital age. You have no idea what it's like not having the internet. You don't know what the world is like without the internet. And you've grown up with smartphones. I mean, that's just the world you live in, which makes you unbelievably connected and networked. But it also demands that you seek out what's real? And we're going to get to that. A lot of the thinking that drives your generation, if I'm looking at it and listening to you correctly, is the reason that you love community and connection, especially at work or under a leader so much, is because you're trying to decide what out there is a lie and fake and what is real, because your generation has lived in the digital world. Yeah. All right, so Gabby Lozano, your ideal leader is somebody who likes collaboration and co-creation. You're not looking for somebody who tells you how everything's gonna go, this is how it's gonna be, you're gonna do it like this. You're looking for a leader who is a collaborator and is willing to listen to your input. Do I have that right, or would you push back on that a little bit?
I would say that is spot on. I think a lot of our generation just wants to feel heard and seen, and collaboration is the way to do that. Collaboration doesn't mean that we always get our way or that everything that we say is law and that's the final word, but just to be heard and seen by a supervisor or a coworker, I think that's like the ideal situation for Gen Z.
Do you think that comes from a place, let me say it like this. Would I have this right or wrong? Purpose drives your generation.
Right.
The why, the cause, everything in your life is driven by why are we doing this and what's the cause. Making money does not interest you if it's not attached to a valuable cause. Do I have that right? Anand, if that's the case, do you think that your generation wanting to be able to give input in a job, even at a young age, is because you want to feel like you're a partner in the vision and the cause?
I think that's correct. I think a lot of us, especially just, again, like with the social media era, we've just seen so many different things. Like we're able to believe in so many different causes, not just in our hometown, but also around the world. We get views to see stuff that's going on in third world countries or in other foreign places and things that we really want to bring attention to. And so the more that we're able to have our voice to be heard, and not, especially by older generations, because I think sometimes we'll have the mindset that the older generation doesn't really care, or they look at us as like, oh, we're too young, or like, you haven't lived long enough, so you don't really know how to feel about this or how to react about this. But I think, again, like Gabriella was saying, it's not really a thing to where we just want to just have our voice be domineering over anybody else's voice, but we just want it to be heard and want the input to be heard and just to be understood and see where we're coming from. So I think that's correct, PJ.
Got it. So if you want to be heard, how do you voice yourself? How do you think your generation voices itself? Individually or corporately?
I think a lot of things have changed in culture to where I think it's like a two-edged sword. We can grab a phone and we can make our voice be heard, which I think that sometimes hurts us more than helps us if we aren't being mentored or empowered the right way. And I think not all of us are always aware of that, but I also think on the other end, we also see things sometimes different. We want to bring solutions. We want to help. We see kind of where our generation is going. And like you said, a lot of us are about to take on the workspace. And I think we see that, and we see the workspaces that we have and what we can do to create, better workspaces so that we can give the results that the company or the people or the work environment wants. And I think if, for us at least, we are very like, if we have something to say, we're gonna tell you. I don't know if you guys have, daughters or, people that are like, I need to talk to you. Like, I don't like this. We sometimes are like that, but it always comes out of a place of just wanting to help and just seeing, a problem and wanting to bring a solution. And sometimes we don't necessarily want you to say, yes, we'll do it that way. But sometimes it's more like, okay, let's sit down and talk, and let me tell you my thoughts and you tell me your thoughts. And let's come to like a middle ground to see how we can move forward. And I think that's kind of, I guess in the workspace and even in our own worlds, sometimes we can, just have our voice be heard, which is something that a lot of our generation does. But I think it's so healthy if you as a boss or the parent like give space to guide those, thoughts and directions before they hit platforms. And so, I think that's one of the ways that we make our voice be heard sometimes,
But you just said before they hit platforms. Because you have a lot of pull. Your generation has a lot of pull. in the world because you have millions and billions of people across different platforms, and mostly you are on there. And so I guess my question is this. You said something a few minutes ago, or just a moment ago. You said that you want to be part of having solution. Would you say that your generation is all about solving problems? Somebody told me one time, don't give them a project to complete, give them a problem to solve and let them surprise you. And that's been, I'll be honest, that was 12 years ago, and it's been the best advice I've ever gotten. It's just to say, because what I did not realize is how networked and connected y'all were to go get answers and to create something special, to be honest, especially digitally. So would you speak into that? What is the heart for you specifically, can't speak for your whole generation, but for you specifically, in wanting to be a problem solver?
I think it all just comes down to purpose. And for me personally, like I have grown up at church, you know, I've been a part of all these little program initiatives within Lakewood Church, and everything that I have learned and even in my generation has been purpose. Why do we do the things that we do? What's the end goal? How are we solving problems? And I think the overall theme is that we just want to make the world a better place. Whether it's a person who's a part of Gen Z, who's not religious at all, doesn't know God, or someone who does, I think we all just want to make the world a better place. And I think we spend so much time just thinking about what our kids are going to be going through. You mentioned earlier, like, we have grown up with technology and we have seen the effects of that. And a lot of Gen Z says, like, oh, we're not going to get our kids iPads when we have kids, or we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. So we're already, like, thinking of ahead of what we're going to change for our children and the generations to come.
I said the same thing. I said the same thing. It'll sneak up. I would say, parents out here, it'll sneak up on you, won't it? You're like, ah! There you go. No, but for real. Community is essential. Community is so important for your generation. Talk to me a little bit about community. When we say community, what I don't think, this is my opinion, and you tell me, what I don't think you're referring to is like ping pong tables, pizza parties, and stuff like that. When you mean when you mean community, tell me about what community means.
I think community to us is a lot of our generation, I think we really just want a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
We want somewhere where we can go and, like, we can say this is home, which I think also is kind of like to the detriment of our generation as well, because in that seeking of trying to find some place to belong, we tend to run to the first thing that'll capture our attention, or the first thing that'll show us the love that we think that we need, or the thing that we've been craving for a long time. And that's why, you know, a lot of our generation is fighting for these labels, or want to identify as this or identify as that. And it's truly because we want that community, but sometimes we go about the wrong ways of going to get it. But I think you're spot on with saying community is not just like going to just hang out, and like, while that is fun, we want to hang out with our people, if that makes sense. We want to hang out with our friend group, which I think is why it's so great. Like, at our church, we have so many different places to where like we have young adult service happening like literally right now. You know, like, we have a space for that. We have a space for even the younger Gen Zers and youth ministry and stuff like that. But they just want to find a group of people who they can relate to, who we can say like, hey, you understand me on this level, so now you're gonna be my friend, and you're gonna be my friend for a long time. And that's more of community for us. It's not just, you know, hey, we hang out here and that's it. But it's on a deeper level. We get to come together and we talk about certain things, and we will, you know, banter about different things that are going on in the world, and why do you think this, or why do you think that? And that's how we build our community.
I love that. If you have any questions, especially anybody online, if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you, and we'd love to ask these three. But can anybody relate? Even if you're not in Gen Z generation, can you relate to this? To say, hey man, I love the connection. I want community. I want to know I have a place where I belong. Okay. See, and I don't think this is any different. I don't think Gen Z is any different from previous generations on this. Here's why I think they deviate a little bit, is the why. And we talked about this yesterday over the phone. And I think you said something that was so impactful. And you said the reason that we want to know you as a supervisor, an authority, a leader, a coach, a teacher, something in our life is because we spend so much time looking at a world that we don't know is real or fake. And when we get to know somebody, we genuinely get to understand who they truly are. Right. And that matters. That's why you want the feedback. That's why you want your thoughts considered, because you want to know how that leader or authority or supervisor in your life hears you. Mm-hmm. What are they thinking that you're thinking? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So would you speak into that a little bit about just trying to find what's true in a world of just noise?
Yeah. Yeah, we were having a conversation on the phone yesterday just about this, and I think it's just so powerful because a lot of the times we think community or connection looks like, okay, well, I set up this meeting and I asked the questions, and I mean, they should feel heard, shouldn't they? Like, why are they? I think going back to Anad's point, like, we're really looking to be deeply known, to be deeply heard, and that doesn't necessarily mean like you're our therapist or, you know, things like that, but I think it's so important that we know you as a person. Like, I know for so long it's been this authority figure in the companies where it's super far and it's like, that's the CEO or that's the boss, and I really can't talk to him, he's busy or she's busy, and I think that's changing. I really do. I think we're a very in-person generation, and I think if we do take those spaces in leadership, I think we're very personal. I think because of the lack of connection that we do have. As much as, I guess, influence that we have to see so much, we don't have the depth. So that's what we're lacking. If you see your daughters or your kids and they're like, I want to spend time here and there, it's really because they're lacking depth and they want to have that. And you could say, well, I provided, the pizza or the ping pongs and things like that, but in reality, they really care about what you're thinking. What kind of leader are you? What kind of boss are you? What kind of person? Like, what kind of mother are you? What kind of father? Like, we really do think about that stuff because we're also trying to navigate life, and sometimes you're our only source of influence. Sometimes we come from different kinds of families, different kinds of environments, and I think the workspace is such a beautiful place to create those for us. And I think because of that, we're trying to find what's true. Are you a true person? Can I confide in you? Can I trust you? Because, we see influencers all the time. People our age, older, younger, and sometimes they paint themselves to be something, and they're not. And I think we're just trying to figure out how to not confuse who you say you are and who you really are. And I think when those two actually correlate, we find like just gems in you. Like, we're like, oh my gosh, like, you are actually authentic. You're an authentic leader. I want to be that. I want to be a part of that. I just want to sit in your meeting. Like, for me, personally, it's like when I find that, like, for example, with PJ or things like that, it's like, I don't even need to say anything. Like, I just want to be there. Like, I just want to learn from you. I want to see how you think, what you do. How can I bring the solution to the table? Knowing that you are, yourself. And I think that is a challenge as a leader. I don't think necessarily just as for the older generation. I think for all of us, it takes a lot of security to allow people a little bit closer than that. It's very easy. It's a lot easier to just be like, okay, just stay right there. Like, I'll just see you at the meeting, or you don't need to know about my life. But I think it's important to sit and say, okay, what am I allowing my generation or this generation to see in my life that will be effective for theirs? And I think that brings so much help, wisdom, and also buy-in. I think when, the old quote that says, you don't really care about what people say unless you know that they care. And I think we're that to the core. Like, if we don't really know that you really care, we'll do the work, we'll do the job, like, we'll get it done. But if we really, really know you as a boss cares, or at least just like, hey, how's your mom? I heard about this. Those little things, those little things matter to us because we really are needing to learn those things that you guys had, which was that in-person connection when you were growing up. We don't have that. Like, if you're in a meeting and it's awkward, people are on their phone. They're not cracking jokes. And so I think that's what we're lacking, and that's why we're seeking that. So I think that's why we're searching for truth, because we're just filled with so much noise all the time. And we just want to know what's true. And if we see you're true, we're like, okay, I can be a part of this.
Love that. How many of you would echo that and say, like, I'm with that 100%, regardless of if I'm this generation or not? I'm with that 100%. Good. And I think as believers, we should all be on that same page. I think we are. My girls, I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, excuse me, she just turned 9. 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, I better get that right. 9-year-old and 10-year-old, they were shocked to hear that milk used to be delivered to your front door. Shocked. And I think one of the things that's interesting about that I've read in the research, this is just the research, so you can say yes or no to this, that you want to be seen as an individual person, not just as a number, not just as another employee, another student, another whatever, a face in the crowd. You want to be known. And can I be honest? In older generations, that was the thing. You went to your local pharmacy, they knew you. They knew your family. See, that's what I'm saying. I think this generation actually getting us back to personalized living, like knowing people. And so that's why I say I don't think this is a new generation. I think this is a return to the humanness that a lot of the technology age in the last 40, 50 years has kind of pulled away from. Like we've grown so big so quickly, especially in the business world and the marketplace and schools and everywhere. We've grown so quickly. It's been very easy. It's not been malicious, but it's been very easy to be a face in the crowd, to be a number. And I think what we're getting back to is we're starting to get back to knowing people well individually. And it's one of the things that I see in my girls that kind of shocks them. Is that idea that, there was a time where you had people show up that delivered your mail that knew your name. Yep. And I think that is a world that people want. I don't care what generation you're in. I think we're all craving that. 57%, according to Job List, 57% of Gen Z wants an in-person job. Not an online, not a stay-at-home job. You want an in-person experience, because you want to know the people you're working with. And I think that drives values. I want to have a quick discussion about values, 3 minutes, and then we're going to go to online. Everybody have discussion there. We're going to talk in the room. So I want us to talk about values because we want to hear from everybody sitting out here. I want to hear from you as well. Your generation is driven by values. 87%, according to a LinkedIn study, 87% expressed that they'd be willing to leave their current job if they found that their values align better with a different job. 87%. And 33% of the marketplace right now, and I just use the marketplace as a blanket description, but the marketplace, 33% of people of all generations are looking for a new job after they just got hired on within 3 months, are already looking for a new job. 52% of Gen Z. So talk to me about values. You're not necessarily looking, I will say it like this. This is my opinion. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think millennials and Gen Z, but especially Gen Z, you will work a job that you think is in a culture you really like because the values matter. You will not stay in a job that you love in a culture that you can't stand. Is that right or wrong? Would you agree with that?
I would agree for sure. I think even just like testament to that, I used to actually work with Gabriella, and we used to work in the administration building for the Alief Independent School District. And she would do like social media and like create graphics for a lot of the stuff that would go up on there, and I was doing data entry. Now, you can look at me as somebody who loves leading worship and doing fun stuff. Data entry was not my favorite job. You know what I mean? That wasn't what I woke up every day being like, yes, I get to go type in more data. But the fact that, I got to work with one of my good friends, even our boss, Chancellor Terry, who's like been like a spiritual mother for all three of us up here. But the fact that we get to work in an environment like that, it made it to where it was like, man, like this is great. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm coming in at like 7:30, 8 o'clock when I was late, but 7:30 most of the time. And just being able to come into a space where it's like, like we're ready for 12 o'clock, and we're like, yo, what are we doing for lunch? Like, when are we gonna like spend some time? Or even like when we would have like meetings at a different like site that was A-Leaf, but still, it would be like just us, and we'd be like setting up the room, and like it would be a good time because we genuinely enjoyed each other's company, and everybody on the team would have a good time. And so it made it to where it was like, man, like even now, like I don't work there anymore, but it was like that time where it was being able to like spend those time with those people, and the atmosphere there was great. And again, I wasn't doing the most fun job, but it made it to where like I was like that energy, like okay, like yes, I'm doing my job, but I get to spend time with great people as well. And so I think it's spot on. Like we'll definitely like sacrifice, even if the job is not the best. But it's like the people are great, and it will continue to have us keep coming and keep pushing through. But yeah,
I'm going to put you on the spot, Gabby. What is a value that is really important to you? 30 seconds.
I would say authenticity. And I think a lot of people think that being authentic with Gen Z means crossing boundaries and being too vulnerable or sharing too much. But it's not really about opening up and like just word vomiting your entire life story to us. It's more about showing what you value and letting that be seen through your leadership. A lot of the times we have people who will say they value one thing and then they go and they lead in a different direction. And that's just not something that we are drawn to. I think we just want to make sure that you are who you say you are and that your core lines up with how you're actually acting.
Okay, let's take 2 minutes. Everybody go online, that's online, have a chat real quick. We'd love to hear your thoughts or questions you may have for our panel. And then everybody in the room, I want us to answer this question. Do you agree with some of the things you've heard? Do you relate with some of the things you've heard? And then I want to report back. 2 minutes, and then we'll report back real quick. All right. We're going to go ahead and come back. Ruby, Vanessa, the team that's online, if you'll go ahead and share, I would love to get any feedback. I'd love to get any feedback from you as we continue the conversation. But I want to start in the room. Anybody hear anything that you absolutely agree with, that you feel that same way, regardless of if you're in this generation or not? Yes, ma'am. Everything? Love it. Love it. Let me steal your mic real quick. Dr. Dokes, do you mind? Thank you, sir. You're looking sharp. Love that vest. Would you just share real quick what you just said? You relate to all of it?
I actually love everything that they were saying and expressing. I feel that I can relate to all of it. And I love the fact that they're so passionate about the way they feel. I feel almost as if it's like a trend. Like it goes out of style, big old cycle, and then it comes back. And I feel like they're trying to bring everything back that the generation before me and my generation had. Because I feel like my children, like, they didn't have this. Like, there was several generations that got so caught up in the technology world that they lost all of this. And it's good to hear that they're trying to bring it all back. So,
Love that.
yeah, I love it.
Love that. Sorry. Well, I'll get you in a second, Terry.
Thanks. Well, what we hear for sure, it's beautiful, and it's the desires of all of us. Definitely,
Yeah.
this is a controlled environment, teens, because you were educated under the beautiful roof of Lakewood Church. This is not the world, and I work with a lot of teens that are really different about you. Doesn't mean that this battle is lost. God is fighting the battle, and that's, you are the example, and you're the inspiration for your generation. That's exactly my work with my teens.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, we got Terry right here. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad you guys are really here. I have a friend who has a child, a daughter that's your age. She's 20, and she lives in Oregon on her own now. And he refers to her as an old soul. And while you guys are up here talking, I knew kind of what he was talking about, but now I've really come to understand it better. Okay, and I think that's so cool, because she was sitting there knitting the other day when I was talking to her, doing crochet or whatever. She was doing things of old days, and she treats her family like we used to treat family. And see, that's what's real important to me, and this is my question to them, is that I have this show that I'm going to do that talks about seniors and senior issues and that type of thing, and I want to reach your generation. How can I reach you so that you will go serve your grandparents, your parents? Some of you have great grandparents that are alive, and they're getting older in their generation. And how do you go serve those individuals with love and care and want? It's not because you have to, but because you feel like that inside and you just know it's the right thing to go do. And I want to learn how to reach people like you, because I want to be able to go on places like TikTok. The old guy wants to go on TikTok, okay? Yes. And reach individuals like yourselves, because the millennials are different, okay? They kind of stand off and they go do their own gig. You know, you guys are different, so that's my question to you anyway.
Cool. Let's take a moment to answer that. How would you coach us a little bit? How can we speak to you in a way that would inspire you, as Terry was saying, to really serve, help, give to older generations, especially parents, grandparents, great-grandparents?
So I will say that Gen Z is a generation that doesn't do anything that they don't want to do. So I work in marketing, so it's kind of like my brain is thinking marketing side of it, and the marketing side of it was to know your audience. Like, what Gen Z is wanting to serve their people. What side of Gen Z actually wants to spend time with family, you know, and finding out that side, because no matter what efforts you put into something, if someone is watching like a video on TikTok and they are not interested in that, they won't do it. And I think like another side to that is to just really showcase the purpose of it. Showcase like the future effects and the solutions that you're bringing, because at the end of the day, that's what we care about. We want to see like how we're helping people. We want to see why it matters, and we want to see how to do it. Yeah.
And how to do it?
Yes.
Love that. Love that. So we've got a couple online. Thank you, Terry, for the question. We've got a couple online. Myra said having a place where you belong. That's multi-generational. Having a sense of belonging is really important. I think it's important to all of us as human beings. And I think this is one of the things that really, especially younger millennials and Gen Z are really driving, is they don't want the humanness to be forgotten. In a world of digital, and especially with AI and everything, the human connection, and this is one of the big things that we talk about in leadership right now, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, is connecting in the human space. Because it's very easy in a world that has become, since the pandemic especially, has become so disconnected, it's very easy to lose the humanness between us. And I think, but I think people crave that. I think people crave it. One of the questions we had was from, I want to say Arlene said this. She said, a baby boomer. She said, I can relate with this generation, and my grandsons are Gen Z, and we can relate with everything. Someone has said that grandparents and grandchildren are kindred spirits, and I find this to be true. And Pierre from France, my buddy Pierre from France, said, my question is, what do you do as a Gen Z like me to discover your goal or sense of purpose when you're looking at your potential, going in, maybe going in a different direction, your capacity, your possibilities, like you're trying to find where you fit? How have you sort of found or discovered your purpose? Not just your generational purpose, but you as an individual.
I think for me, I believe I'm called to ministry, so it's always been I found that I'm drawn to things that are bigger than me, if that makes sense. So if it's just serving me, then there's not really a place where I'm not going to be able to motivate myself that much. But if somebody else gets to be the
Wait. Skate by on that one.
But
Say that again slowly. If it's just about serving you.
Yeah, if it's just about serving me, it's never going to motivate me enough to keep doing it. I think what I get to do as far as serving in youth and being able to like hang out with students and see them come to Jesus is a beautiful thing. To be able to lead worship in young adults and be able to be a middleman for people to meet with Jesus is a beautiful thing. And so I think as a Gen Z or as somebody, and I think our generation in general is always looking for we're looking for the next cause. We're looking for what thing that we should fight for, what thing we should let people know is going on. I think the biggest thing is to find something that's bigger than you. And once you figure that out, I think you'll be able to take steps. And again, for me, I've grown up in church, so it's always been small steps of obedience. And so once I found, okay, God, like, I'm trusting you. You asked me to do this, so I'm going to keep doing this. And once I keep taking those small steps, the more the Lord would unfold and say, oh, okay, like, you know what, this is what I really want you to do. And so again, like for me, I started off serving here, doing J-Life, and it was with Kids Life, and it was
J-Life is Junior Leaders in Full Excellence. It was our Kids Life junior leadership program.
Yeah, and so we would get the chance to serve in many different capacities. And so I remember I was in J-Life 1, I'm like in 3rd grade, and I'm walking around with security. And what am I doing with security? Who knows? Because I'm so little, so small. So if there was any real threat, they're definitely leaving me behind. But getting to do that, and then at one point we got to help with worship and do hand motions. When in our Kids Life Ministries, we would have people in the front of the stage right here doing hand motions for the kids to do. And I was like, oh, I think I really like this worship thing a bit. And God was like, okay, now I'll open up more doors. And so then I joined the Kids Life worship team. I joined the junior high worship team, started leading worship in high school. And so it's small steps, there's small findings, and really just sitting down and asking God and saying, Lord, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do, but I want to follow you while doing it. So you give me the roadmap, and whatever you ask me to do, I will say yes. And the Lord can do a lot with a yes. So I think finding small things in your life that you can be obedient to that are bigger than yourself, before you know it, you'll turn around and look 10 years and you'll be like, wow, but I don't know how we got here, but God, I'm thankful. So yeah.
Go for it.
I think we're also in a space where, like, if you're, I don't know how old you are, but if you're in your 20s or something and you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what career, like if I go with this career, it takes money and like I can't afford to do that. I think one of the best things, I guess, in my life that has happened is just, I know this might sound really churchy, but truly like sit with the Lord, like sit with Jesus, like follow him, like learn to know his voice. I know I'm speaking to a lot of different people, and you may not even just in the ministry space. I think in corporate, I think that is so vital. I think a lot of ideas that you are looking for in social media or anything like that, like, is found in the intimacy with God. And I think it's so important for me just to like have distinguished His voice at a young age and to know what to say yes to and what to not to say yes to. I think it helps when you have so much options lined up for you that you think like, oh, well, everyone's going this way, or my whole generation is this, or this is what's bringing in the money. Sometimes God, and a lot of times, has like steered me the different way, and it turned out to be amazing. Just kind of like what Anal was saying, little steps of obedience. And then I would say another thing is getting with a mentor, like getting with someone that you see as a spiritual mother and father. I think to your point, I think, if you want to get on TikTok, do it. Like, we crave to have like those moms and, spiritual father figures, mother figures, like to impart wisdom, because we know we don't know it all. Like, we really don't. But I think if we get to find a mentor or someone that we admire that can give us that wisdom, I think we would sit under it. And I think that will benefit you so much. Someone that you can, put your thoughts into it and say, hey, what do you think? This is what I heard from God. First of all, like, this is what I heard from God. What do you think as my mentor? I think that has, helped me. A lot of times I've sat with PJ or other people, and that has just stirred me the way that the Lord, has guided you to. Because sometimes we think, my friends are telling me this, or, someone else is telling me this. I think this is what's best. But the best thing is to do what God's best is for you. And we don't know that until you sit with Him enough to know His voice, and to know how to be obedient to it. And so that's what I would say. I think that's been so beneficial to my life. Like, a lot of times where I don't know where to go, I'm just like, God, I'm trusting you, and He will guide you. And so
I love that. Love that. In fact, guiding you, you just got married. Just got married. Juan is here, and Juan works in banking and finance. So glad you're here, Juan.
He's pointing at you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I think it was you that just spoke that was talking about, I want to circle back, if it's okay, about authenticity. It does not mean sharing all of your business. And so for me, that really hit, because when you said, one of you all said it, I'm sorry, but about your values and your morals, that really resonated, because I was like, it's just about being, because whoever you are as a leader creates a synergy. And so I think that's why a lot of us in here, matter of fact, all of us can relate to our pastor so much, because he's not up there just talking fluff. Everything he says, he has a testimony behind it. He has an experience. It's who he is. So I was guilty in the past of trying to be relatable, like, oh, with my story, because that's what I was taught. Share your story, but really your morals has more value than your story, because your morals, your synergy, all of that, you're actually attracting who you are, just in a different space. So I thank y'all for saying that.
I love that. And to that point, I know Gabby Lozano was sharing that. To you, and if I caught this right, authenticity does not mean oversharing.
Yes.
In your generation. It means being, like you said, being true to your word, matching what you do. And I think that was huge. You want to speak to that?
Yes.
You got 3 minutes. By the way, Anand is about to go up and lead worship for young adults, so he's got to go in 3 minutes.
Yes.
He's going to dip out a little bit early, but we will pray for you as you lead tonight. So,
I just wanted to say that leadership is what you do when no one is looking. I have worked with so many people who I know are believers, and I've seen the way that they treat their employees. And that's just something that like speaks so highly to us. The way that you treat people, the way that you lead, the way that you speak to people, the way you engage with anyone. And I don't think it necessarily comes down to oversharing. But I think if we can see the heart behind why you do what you do, and something that's so like common for us is not following the money, but following the purpose. And I would speak to you guys as well. Like, if you feel like your purpose is somewhere else, then follow that. Because whenever you do something and you're leading in something that you are not called to, you can lead with bitterness, or lead with anger. And the word talks about us being slow to anger, but not just slow to anger, but slow with any emotion, slow to process your emotions, the way that you treat people, the way that you talk to people, the way that you just go about life. I think we have a perfect example of a character that really processes everything that he does. And so we should lead the same way.
This is from Monica online, many of my students at college are Gen Z. There's an alarming rise in mental health issues and struggles. How does the panel think that we can help Gen Zers overcome this rise in mental health and anxiety, depression, pessimism, and other things in your generation? How do you think? And you got 1 minute, you got to go fast.
Yes. I think the biggest thing that, especially when, I think all of us up here again, we've just grown up with anxiety and depression being so much more prevalent and us going through it, unfortunately. But I think the biggest thing we look for is someone to just like hear us out and understand. We don't really all the time need somebody to help solve the problem. So we're like, if we're feeling anxious, you're like, okay, well, don't worry, have peace. And it's like, yes, but not right now. You know what I mean? Or it's like, like, oh, like I'm feeling depressed. Or like, oh, just be happy. And it's like, yes, just not right now. I think sometimes it's more beneficial if you sit with us in the emotion. And again, not let us sulk and not let us stay there, but I think be able to meet us where we're at and say, hey, I understand you're going through this, and I'm sorry, and I know this is hard, but it's not going to stay like this forever. And I think that's the biggest thing that helps us is just being able to like see us, because again, also I think one thing that's affected us as well is because mental health hasn't been such like a huge thing, and it probably was big, but there wasn't as much attention on it from when older generations. So sometimes when older generations tell us, and it's like, oh, like like you're not really feeling like that, and again, we feel like our feelings aren't really validated, or some of the stuff that we're going through is not really. You'll look at it and say like that's not really what's going on. Like you're just like, oh, you just need to take a nap, or you just need to get rest, or you just need to relax. But I think the more that people meet us and like understand that this is how we're feeling and it is okay to feel like this, but you can't stay like this forever. So I'll let you stay like this for a little bit, but you got to do something about it after a while and be able to like walk us through and help us and hold us by the hand and guide us. I think that'll be the most helpful thing for sure.
Gabby?
Yes. Sorry.
Appreciate you.
Sorry.
Y'all give Anand a hand. Thank you, Anand. You got to roll.
I think as someone who has dealt with mental health, with full transparency, I had like an accident 3 years ago, and it led to me having PTSD and then anxiety, depression, and all the things. I think like a big thing is that other generations probably have dealt with the same things we have dealt with, but didn't have the vocabulary to identify what it was. And I have watched family members who are much older than me struggle with anxiety or struggle with depression or OCD, like all these mental health disorders, and they don't have any way to identify it, so they don't address it. And I think a huge deal, or a huge thing for us is getting better and growing. And so like what Anand was saying, I think we just have such an amazing God who came down and was fully human so that we could follow his example. And so we have a God who came down and felt the emotions that we felt. He's cried, he has bled, he has felt anything that we could possibly feel, he has dealt with. And I don't recall a single verse in the Bible that says that Jesus just shut his emotions down or swept them under the rug, or Jesus didn't want to deal with his emotions. We, time after time, see Jesus break down, have a moment to express his feelings, and then put his trust back in God. Or matter of fact, not even take it away from God. He invited God to be there with him. And so I would encourage you guys to encourage other people to feel your emotions and invite God in it. I think that's the only thing that actually got me through it. I love therapy and I'm an advocate for therapy, but therapy didn't work for me until I invited God to be in there with me.
Amen. And I would say, in much the same vein, I think we're seeing it a lot in your generation, but I think across the generations, we're seeing a rise in it. And I think one of the big things that's been a catalyst, maybe it's directly linked or it is an offshoot, has been the rise in just information overload for human beings, and the access to so much information, so much news, so much reporting, so much data, so much stuff, so quickly for us in a 25-year span. it creates environments where we fear. We fear. We feel anxiety. So I think I loved your answer. If I could just highlight that, I loved your answer. No matter what, we have a Savior who is in solidarity with us. We have a Savior that came and experienced suffering and all of the human experience along with us. And I mean, I don't think there's a greater testimony to the gospel than the fact that our Savior actually came in human form and experienced all of it and went through it with us and for us. Amen? I love that answer. All right, we're going to get through a couple more things and we're going to be done. We'll go online right around 8:02. We're going to go online and have breakouts, and we just want you to talk about some things that you heard tonight, and then we're going to have discussion in the room, some things that you heard. If y'all want to hang out for a couple more minutes, we'll talk back and forth. I'd love for Dr. Dokes to share some of his thoughts about engagement, full engagement. He works with San Jacinto College and works with a lot of your generation as well. So I'm going to hit a couple of things. Feedback. The research says that you guys love feedback. You like sitting and hearing from leaders, coaches, teachers, supervisors. You want to hear feedback, yes or no?
I would say yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think going back to that is to the phrase of, sometimes we don't, or just overall everybody, we don't really care what you have to say unless we know you care. But at the end of the day, we really do care. Even if we don't know you, like let's say you have a new employee and you're like, well, they don't really know me. Will they care? Absolutely. Like I think we are very analytical, so we hear what you're saying without you saying it. And I think that to us matters so much. And so when your actions and the things that you do on your regular day life or the way that you treat people at your workplace, that also emulates to us like how much weight your words carry to us. And I think when we're able to sit and, for example, there's leaders that I admire and I'm like, I want to hear from you. Like, give me your wisdom. Like, I need it. I think those are some things that like we really cherish because we know we don't have all the answers. I would like to take that stereotype out because I know we say like, y'all think y'all know it all. Like, we really don't. Like, we really do know that we don't. And we really do appreciate leaders that can see us, can really care. And at the same time, like invite like really, really sound just constructive advice for our life. And I think we really value that.
It has been said of you, Gabby, it has been said of you that you like three things: flexibility, mobility, and development. Does this feedback, does it help you develop as a person? If you go work somewhere, like you work in marketing, so if you go work somewhere and you get good feedback, do you feel like it helps to develop you as a person and as an employee?
Yes. I started a new position about 2 months ago, actually here at Lakewood. And so it has been just a huge learning curve because I've never had an environment where feedback is so constant and so loving. And it has even made me take time out of like my personal time to go and like find resources on how to grow and perform better at my job. My job has put me through like, I'm a UX UI designer, so they have put me through training specifically for research so that I can grow. And in the training, I also have like little assignments to do here and there. And if I don't get them done at work, I will go home and do them purely because I'm happy that I'm growing and learning and I have leadership that is just pouring into me and giving me that feedback.
This is what has been said about your generation, that you like leaders that bring that enthusiasm. And the enthusiasm is not like a clown, like you show up and like do a dance. The enthusiasm is we're helping you develop. We're helping you develop as an employee in your skills, your abilities, your talent, all of that. But we're helping you develop as a person. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is that value to you that you would have a leader that invests to help you grow?
I would say a 10. Sorry, I'm going to talk a lot, but funny story. I used to work with Anon, but what he doesn't share is that I worked there myself for 4 years, and then he came in the last year. But when I first started, I was doing his data entry job. And one day I went into my supervisor's office. Shout out to Chancellor Terry, she's the best. But I went in there and I was telling her, just honestly, I'm not feeling fulfilled in this job. You know, I love serving people. I have a life group. I serve and dedicate so many hours to the church, and I just love helping people, and I just don't feel fulfilled in the work that I'm doing right now. And I'll keep doing it out of the commitment that I have, but I'm not necessarily happy in it. And she very lovingly told me, these are the skills that I feel that you have. These are the things that I feel you're strong at, and why don't you try this position? And she actually gave me my first social media position, and through that, I changed my major at school. I actually finished school yesterday.
Congrats.
So, yes, thank you. But I just completely shifted my entire life journey because of her feedback and her support. And I worked there for 4 years, and I was able to grow, and now I have my own business. I do website design, and I work here at the church, and it has been the most fulfilling work ever to be able to create graphics and emails and websites that will just like spread the gospel. So it's been amazing, and I think that's like the best quality that a leader can have. Yeah.
All right, final thing, and then we're gonna have discussion. It has been said of your generation. This is the big narrative. All of these are obviously not a paint a broad brush across everybody in your generation, just like every other generation, because people are different. I think one of the things that is significant to you is that you have an entrepreneurial spirit. You have an entrepreneurial spirit. In fact, studies show that Gen Z is going to be the most entrepreneurial generation in American history when it's all said and done.
Yep.
They will own more, build more, start more, and develop more businesses than any other generation just by scale. Yeah. And in fact, 60% right now, 60% of Gen Z is looking to have either started their own online business or are going to start one. 60%. That is what we call a side hustle. That is their side hustle. It's not their main job or their career. They want to do a side hustle as well as their career. So speak to that a little bit. The last point I'm going to make is because you're so entrepreneurial, you are looking desperately for mentorship. You're looking for people who have gone before and done before and seen before to speak into your life. That's why you like connection and feedback, and you want to know what's true, because you're looking to see what to emulate. So speak to that. The studies show, do give us mentorship. Teach us, talk to us, correct us, train us, develop us. We're here. We want to do it with a purpose, but we're here as a canvas. Can you speak to that, G?
I fully agree with that statement. I think you guys see it all the time as well. Maybe your daughters or sons or your employees. Like, we live in such a world that we can literally, like, it's just changed so much. We literally can grab, phone and just like create a business. Like my sister, she literally the other day just grabbed an idea of a hat and put it on TikTok, and she made money off of it. Like she didn't go to college for it. Like, a lot of us see a lot of opportunity. There's so much more options now that were back in the day, like, you would need, your options was determined on your boss or somebody in your workspace, but we're a very, like you said, entrepreneurial generation where we look at something, if we say we can have that or we can go there, like, we'll go there. We'll do everything in our power. And I think it also drives out of, if we see, situations in our society or environment, like so many things that we see on a day-to-day, we want to bring solutions to. And sometimes we're like, well, no one's doing it, well, then we're just going to do it, because we just feel like things are just, really at our fingertips. And I think that's why also the conversation of leadership with, the older generations is so important. Like, I really do firmly believe that, like, at least for me, like, I don't want to take on any leadership unless like I sit under great people, because there's, it's a two-edged sword. You can go up there, we see a lot of young people our age, that go up there and you're like, okay, why are you saying that? Like, we shouldn't really be acting this way. But I think that's why it's so important that when they do hit your workspaces, when they do hit your houses, when they do go to you for advice, or they even just show up and they're like, I want to interview, your first interaction with us just matters so much. Like, we really do want to hear. We just want to know that you care. Like, we just want to know that you're real, like you're an authentic person, because we're really trying to figure out life. And I know sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. It's like, what else do you want? Like, you're giving you the job and I'm giving you this, but we really just want to know you. We really do, because we do believe that we don't just want to grow in the workspace. Like, our personal life affects our workspace. Like, we don't separate the two. It's like we are, just our leadership is connected to who we are. And I think that's something, that's empowering, I think, for everyone else's that's older than Gen Z, because we need your voice still. A lot of people I've met that are older than me are like, well, y'all already taken on, like, no one wants to hear from me, or no one hears from the old person. But in reality, it's really like a race, like a baton pass. It has to be good on both ends. The person that's passing that baton and the person that's receiving it. And I think oftentimes right now we're like, well, I just need to pass the baton then, like that's how my company will thrive. I really don't think that, because it can hurt both ends. And I think that's why we're craving mentorship so much. But it's so important to get to know us individually, because then you'll know our strengths, how to talk to us, how to mentor us. And I think when we see that in a leader, we see that you're also willing to put in the time the way I'm willing to put in the time, then I think you have just like a recipe for just growth in your company or growth in your churches. Like, whatever it is that you're seeking for, just be that, like emulate that to us so we can see, that's how we see what you value. And so I think to your question, like, that is so important. We really are seeking that, and we really do think, well, I mean, if no one else is doing it, then I'm gonna do it. But the beautiful part about it is, well, before I do that, who around me can I look at and say, okay, that's who I want to sit under, so that I can learn and not, fall in my face when I do become an entrepreneur or I start this business. And so I do agree 100% with that.
I love that. Yeah, go for it.
With mentorship as well, I will say we thrive with collaboration. So allow reverse mentorship. Allow us to also teach you some things, and innovate maybe some of the ways that you're doing things. I don't think any of us come in thinking our way is better, or we know everything, or, I want to be in control. I think part of us, like, we really just want to, like, be poured into, so that we can grow. And so as we are being poured into, also let us pour into you. We have great ideas, and we have a lot of technology experience, and I think that is something that can really help, like, any corporate space or any space at all. Honestly, I think the exchange of ideas is what really allows that growth to happen for a business.
I love that. So as we're ending tonight, here's what I want to say before we go to breakouts online and then talk in the room. Is the last 4 weeks we've talked about multi-generational teams, marketplace, church, family, whatever it may be. And I think one of the essential things that we have to remember is that every generation is going to have people who think differently. No one generation thinks all the same. And a lot of generations overlap. But here's the thing. It's because we're human. And human is human is human in every generation, right? And so for us, I think that the humility to say, what are you thinking? What are you, like, where's your headspace? How do you see innovation? That's one of my favorite things about working with your generation is I always ask you, is there a faster and more convenient way we can do this and innovate? Because you know what the platforms are. You know what the technology is. Please help me. And also, you guys, and we've had so many conversations, they've told me so many times in your generation, not just you two, but hundreds of people that we've had come through Lakewood, has said we need the wisdom of older generations. We need them to speak into our lives. And so I think it's humility is the answer. Can we say that? Humility is the answer. Old or young, humility is the answer. You're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to give. And all of us have to learn from one another. And so I just want to say thank you for coming and just sharing your heart with us tonight. And I appreciate all of us just listening and then sharing your perspective as well, and we're going to do it here in the room. So here's what I want us to talk about as we end tonight, this final week of Leadership 205, is I would love to have the conversation online about what you heard tonight. If you agree, what do you relate to? What of this will you say, absolutely, 100%, I feel the same? Or, you know what, I kind of see it differently. My experience has been a little different than what they're sharing, regardless of generation. So I would love for us to do that, and then we'll talk about it in the room. So for everybody online, we love you. Thank you so much for being a part of Leadership 205. For Gigi and for Gabby Lozano, thank you. And we will see you in 21 days. We will see you the 29th of August for Leadership 206. And we'll finish tonight in the room. We love you, and enjoy your time online. All right.